how to buy auction homes in California. Welcome back. I'm Ted Thomas, and I'm going to answer your question today in this episode, how to buy auction homes in California. You're going to love this. Now, I lived in California for 35 years as a resident, and then I moved to Florida. Now, California residents really work hard, and they're all looking for bargains because everybody wants in on the real estate. And why? Well, it's very costly, and it's going to get more costly. So we're going to talk about that today, how to buy auction homes in California. Now, California has about 40 million residents, and they all want to own a piece of the rock, that's for sure. So this is a competitive market. So if you learn how to buy at the auctions, whether it's a foreclosure auction, tax lien auction, government HUD auction, a VA loan auction, Farm Bureau, there's all kinds of ways to buy auction properties in California. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you some insight on how to avoid mistakes at those auctions. But I'll come back and tell you more about that in just a minute. Okay, welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to answer the question, how to buy auction properties in California. Now, as I answer this question, I'm going to tell you the basics of auctions and how do people make money, okay? But how to buy homes at auction is an important thing for you to learn. Why? Because that might be the only way you're going to be able to afford a house in California. Now, all 58 counties in California will hold not only tax lien and or tax defaulted property auctions, but they will also hold foreclosure auctions. Now, I have been involved in auctions in California years ago when there would be 1,000 mortgage defaulted properties a week in Los Angeles. So let me say that again. 1,000 auction properties in Los Angeles in a week. That's 52,000 a year. So don't worry about not having enough properties. Okay, now north to south, there's going to be thousands of them. The tax auction properties are only sold at once a year. So there's going to be at least 58 of those. But mortgage auctions, there's going to be thousands of those. All right, now the loans in the state of California are not called the mortgage. So if I say mortgage, and I'm talking about California, I really mean to say deed of trust. Now that's just a document that they use to lend. Now why are we talking about that? Because in the eastern side of the United States, in a mortgage, it takes anywhere from 6 months to 2 years for the lender to get their property back. Okay, it's not that way in California. The lender is called the beneficiary. Okay, the people that are managing this whole thing are called trustees. So if the lender doesn't get paid, they just call the trustee and say, we didn't get paid. The trustee will issue a default notice and let the people know they're going to go to foreclosure under that deed of trust. Okay, 111 days later, that property will be auctioned. So that's basically 4 months, a little less than that, and the property is back in the lender's hands. So they don't mess around. When a trustee gets their hands on that property, it's going to get to auction and get there quickly. All right, now the realities of all this are that they have mortgages in the east and they have deeds of trust in the west and in the south. The California law simply says if you have a deed of trust and the auction takes place, it's going to do what? It's going to not only go quickly, it's going to go very fast. And when the auction takes place under a deed of trust, the first thing that you're going to bid on is to pay the back loan. So if you buy at a trustee sale, you're paying off the old loan. And I'll talk about that a little bit right now because most people think they're going to steal the property. So if it's the average property in California at $400,000 plus, it's got a $200,000 mortgage. I can tell you right now, the auction is going to start at $200,000 because the bank wants to get their money back. So this is much different than auctions at the tax auction. Much, much different. All right, so what are we talking about today is how to buy auction homes in California. All right, now I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm just a person that knows how to buy a tax lien and deed auction. I'm a trusted advisor for people that are trying to learn how to do this. So you need to understand, if you're going to buy a home in California at auction, if you're buying at a bank foreclosure auction, you're probably paying off a very large loan. If you're buying at an auction that's selling tax properties, you're just paying the back taxes. All right. Why are these auctions taking place? They're simply taking place because people get sick, people lose their jobs, people just say the hell with it, and they stop making their installment sales. So if it's a bank foreclosure, there will definitely be an auction. Now, that auction could take place at the courthouse. It could take place in a small office. The point is, all they want is their property back. Then they're going to try to resell it. All right, so that's called the foreclosure process. It's done with a trustee in California and a sheriff otherwise. So kind of get the idea. So the lender that instigated the loan and started the whole process had it written right in the document that if you didn't pay, 111 days later, they're going to take the property back from you and they're going to resell it. 111 days is all you have. Nothing like other auctions in the East that take months and months of times. So the starting bid at a regular auction, a foreclosure auction, is the back taxes. All right, so what you're trying to learn today is how to buy auction properties in the state of California. You can expect to find thousands of property. Just in the Los Angeles basin, you'll find thousands of properties every month that are going to these auctions. Are they great deals? Yes, some of them are, but most are not great deals, and people aren't going to be able to buy them because they cost too much money. So the auction that starts under a bank foreclosure basically starts out at very close to whatever that mortgage was. All right, now I said mortgage, but in California, it's really going to be a deed of trust, which is the name of the document that they're going to make loans with. All right, now a deed of trust, a trust deed loan, is just like a mortgage. It has all the same covenants that you must pay it, you must pay the taxes, you must pay the insurance, you need to make your payments. If you don't, they're going to foreclose on that, and a trustee is going to do that. So that's an auction. The trustee creates an auction. All right. They also have auctions for back taxes. So let's discuss that just for a minute. So to buy properties for back taxes, these are going to be auctions that are going to be conducted by the county. So the county treasurer can not only levy taxes, collect taxes, but they can sell properties at auction when people don't pay their taxes. Okay, so the auction is because there's a property owner that hasn't paid their property tax. All right, so art is all about buying at auction. Most people consider buying at auction at a foreclosure auction, which a bank is instigating. In this case, it's the county. Now, the county has special rules in California, and the special rules go like this. Number one, if someone doesn't pay the tax, they'll let them know they didn't pay a tax. They'll send them due process notice and tell them, you haven't paid your tax. Here's the consequence. You'll ultimately lose the property. The consequence is they will lose the property. Now, when they lose the property, the county treasurer has been authorized by the legislature to take the loan and wipe it out. So that means you're now going to get a property at a tax defaulted auction that, number one, is being sold at very close to the back taxes, and the mortgage has been wiped out because the county is authorized to sweep clean the county records of mortgages and encumbrances. So this is the best deal on the planet. So now you can buy properties for 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar, but it takes time. So if a property just started in default today, it would be 5 years before it came to auction. Now, we're going to switch cameras just for a minute so that you can look and see what an auction book looks like for the state of California. All right, now we're holding that on the screen, and this is just a large book that was produced by Los Angeles County. It's got hundreds of pages and thousands of properties. This is one auction in one county. Let me say that again. Let me move it up so you can see it's Los Angeles County. All right, now that auction is conducted at different times of the year, so don't pay attention to the dates in that booklet. But the point is, the county of Los Angeles is going to sell properties. And what they're going to do is they're going to have a lot of them. I've never seen less than 1,500 properties at this auction. Now, the county will discourage people to come to that auction. So they charge $5,000 just to register. Why did they do that? Well, they don't need the money. Why they did it is because they want to discourage people. They don't want a lot of looky-loos. As it is, you can find 1,000 people at that auction easily. All right, now the counties with small populations, they'll have a small group, maybe 100 properties. A large county with a large population could have thousands of properties at the tax defaulted auction. All right, now, I'm just a practicing tax lien and deed buyer. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. So everything I'm telling you, I get from the county records and from the statutes of the state of California. All right, so what we're talking about is how to buy auction properties in California. You can buy them from every bank in the state. You can buy them. There'll be sheriff sales conducted in every city and every county, multiple auctions on multiple days. Some days there'll be 10 different sheriff's auctions taking place on the courthouse steps. The tax auction usually only takes place in the county once or maybe twice a year. Those properties don't get to auction until they're 5 years delinquent on the taxes. 5 years. So that means that tax has been accruing and growing on that property. So you're probably not going to get any properties for $250 or $500. All right, the properties are sold at a tax defaulted auction with no mortgage, except they don't call it a mortgage in California. They call it a deed of trust, as they do in other western and southern states. It's a loan document that can be foreclosed on quickly. All right, those documents are wiped out at the tax auction. So California properties are sold with no mortgage. All right, now just remember, a mortgage in California is going to be really written up as a deed of trust. Now, all 58 counties can sell properties at the auction. The highest bidder will receive the property. The highest bidder gets the property. Don't be surprised if the auction lasts 8 or 9 hours. They do it online and they do it offline. All of them are authorized by the treasurer, is authorized to have the auction, and the treasurer is authorized to wipe the mortgages and the encumbrances off the property. So let's look at an example. Okay, if you buy at a real estate foreclosure auction by a bank, you're going to more than likely have to pay off the bank loan on the property. So if it's a $300,000 property and it's got a $150,000 loan, more than likely the auction will start at $150,000. This is a whole different ball game. As you can see, this is Doug. All right. Now, at tax auctions, he bought the property with a starting bid of the back taxes. Okay, but he paid, in this case, $61,000. The market value was $168,000. That's much different than buying an auction property or home at a regular foreclosure auction. So he bought that property at a tax defaulted auction. Here's another example. All right, he's buying a property. In this case, it's a residential lot with a $150,000 value. He's making 6 cents on the dollar. You're not going to find that at bank foreclosure auctions. This is a property tax defaulted auction. So all the counties are authorized to do that. All the county treasurers are authorized to take the mortgages or the deed of trust off the property and in other encumbrances. So you're kind of getting the idea. All right, now the key for all of you is to understand that you need to know the rules. You don't want to just go to an auction and start buying stuff. If you don't know how to check it out, you don't want to buy at those auctions. If you haven't seen the property, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, don't bid on the property. I watch amateurs get slaughtered at these auctions because they think every property is a deal. Every property is not a deal, and people make big mistakes. I mean, big money mistakes at these auctions. All right, I'm just finishing up now on this, so I will repeat. A bank foreclosure auction, you're probably going to start the bidding at somewhere close to the mortgage amount that's on the property. Okay, in regard to tax auction properties, they're starting the tax auction at very close to the last that would due on the property, and there will be no mortgage. All right, so I'm going to finish up by answering at least 2 questions. Okay, the question is, how will you know what you're buying at the auction? It's a really good question. You don't want to be guessing. You want to make sure you have boots on the ground, and you want to have looked at every property. Now, if you want to know where the properties are, the county will announce all the auctions on the county website, and they'll have a book, Don't Buy at an Auction Unless You've Seen the Property. Okay, so there's a good buyer right there. They're asking that question. They're saying, set your maximum bid. You better believe you said set your maximum bid before you do anything at that auction, because the bidding just starts go up, 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 up. If you pay too much money, you won't be able to sell it. You don't want to pay too much for anything, right? So you want to make sure that you know what your exit strategy is. If you know what you're going to sell it for, then you'll know what to bid for. Now, my name is Ted Thomas. I'm finishing up on this video, but below me, I have a free gift for you. That free gift is going to teach you how to do tax liens and tax deeds. So go down there and get registered and get your free gift. I'm Ted Thomas.